Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our preview for the British Grand Prix. My goodness, here we are at Silverstone. I would say the best track of the year. I might be showing some British bias there, which is very rare for me. But there you go, I think it is the best track. It normally has had the best races. If we look back over the last few years, I think we're in for a really good one again this year as well. In this video, we're looking through all the latest news headlines. We're going to have a look at all the upgrades that are on the cars for this weekend. We're going to have a look at Special Helmet Street and Special Livery Corner. Can't forget that. And also, we're making our two predictions towards the end of the video. And as we all know, as the regular viewers know, my two predictions are never wrong. Right, let's get into it then with the news. And I think we should start the news with how we ended last weekend with the crash between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Now, it's been a very heated subject. Very heated indeed. People coming from all different sides. Some saying Max was at fault. Some saying Lando was at fault. I was a bit more down the middle. If you say Max is at fault, people say, but look at what Peter Windsor has said. If you say Lando is at fault, they say, but look at what Anthony Davidson has said. Sky Sports F1 Team YouTube channel released about 20,000 videos on the topic, including an over an hour-long podcast between Damon Hill and David Croft, where David Croft suggests that Christian Horner needs to whisper sweet nothings in Max Verstappen's ears about driving standards. There has been non-stop chatter on this. It'd make you think that it was the most controversial thing that has ever happened in Formula One. And then we get to this weekend and we're thinking, oh, here we go, we're going to heat up again, we're going to get the journalists in there on Wednesday, they're going to be asking questions, there's going to be shots fired across the bow, let's see what happens. And we got there and they asked all the drivers, what do you think? And all the drivers went, I think it's a racing incident, if I'm honest with you, to be honest. It's racing, they were fighting hard, and it happens. We quite enjoyed it, actually. And the journalist went, oh, right, okay, well, that's not what we expected. Right, okay, we need a headline here. We need a headline that says Max Verstappen is bad. I know who we'll go to. So the journalists went to Lewis Hamilton. And they went, Lewis Hamilton! Max Verstappen? He hit Lando Norris. Remember when you used to race with him? Don't you think he's bad? And Lewis went, no, actually, I thought that was a racing incident. To be honest with you, I thought it was a racing incident. But they went, Lewis. But Lewis, look at what Andreas Seidel said after the race. He said the reason Max Verstappen is bad is because when he was racing you, he wasn't punished. What do you think of that? And Lewis goes, I don't agree, actually. Now you mention it. Yeah, I don't agree. I thought it was all fine. And they went, okay, right. The thunder has been taken out of the story of the hatred between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. I know what we'll do. And they all went to Max Verstappen and they said, Max Verstappen, you hit Lando Norris and you're not friends anymore. What do you have to say about that, Max Verstappen? And Max Verstappen said, the only thing I care about in my life is that I get on well with Lando. I woke up quite early because I wanted to talk to Lando, but he'd already texted me. In the morning on Monday, I respected that a lot. And we are great friends. He's a nice guy, honestly. We immediately spoke on Monday, and I think we came to the conclusion that we actually really enjoyed our battle. And I went, oh, well, we're really losing the anger in the conversation here. We'll go to Lando Norris. He could have won that race. We'll go to Lando Norris. Lando Norris, do you think you have to race differently against Max Verstappen because Max Verstappen is bad? What do you say about that, Lando Norris? And Lando Norris said, Verstappen has a different style of racing compared to a lot of others. It's one of the reasons why he's a champion. It's clear how he races. It's tough. It's on the limit, but it's what we love. I thoroughly enjoyed our fight, but it's a shame things ended the way they did. I've reviewed it, and I'm excited to go racing against him this week. So, looking at what all the drivers have said, especially the drivers involved in the battle, I think the outrage to the actual incident was quite overblown. And when we go back and actually look at the actual crash, it's not even that bad. I think a lot of us have a bit of a hangover from 2021 where, these incidents were huge, but they were huge because it was a two-way fight for the world title where either way anything could happen. And an incident like that in 2021 is a huge thing. Whereas here, I know that McLaren are doing well, but they're kind of doing well, maybe a bit too late. I don't truly believe there's a title battle on here. So, when that happens, it's not like that's going to cost Lando Norris the world title. The thing that cost him the world title was that Red Bull were really dominant for the first 6 or 7 races and McLaren took a while to catch up. So I think we still have that ideology of the 2021 of it's a thing for the lead. We gotta get massively angry about this all the time. And who's to blame? Who is to blame? Instead of just sitting back and going, bloody hell, that was exciting. That was a really exciting moment that happened here. 2 really good drivers fighting it out for the lead, pushing it to the limit, and it went overboard. And then George Russell was able to pick up the pieces and take the win. Just describing it then. That's great. That's great racing, and that's entertainment. I know, you're going to have your camps of that's my favourite driver and he didn't win, or that one's my favourite driver and he didn't win, or I don't like George Russell and he did win. But if you put all this aside, it's just exciting. And I think I got caught up in it as well as who's to blame and all that kind of stuff. And I think from now on, I'm going to try and just enjoy racing. Because, that's what we are here. If you're watching this YouTube video, if you're watching me talk about racing on YouTube in my spare room with my YouTube neon light and Formula 1 related gnome, you're probably a racing fan. And we should just enjoy racing. And that was good racing. So let's have a bit of fun, eh? That's the first headline. Let's have a bit of fun. Moving on. Toto Wolff has confirmed that Fernando Alonso did have talks with him at the start of this year regarding joining Mercedes, but Fernando Alonso had no interest at the start of the year. His quote said, "At the beginning of the year, we considered the option of Fernando, but at that time, Fernando was not interested in driving for Mercedes." Then he went on to say, "Fernando would have many more titles if he managed his career differently." True, but you don't need to kick him while he's down. You don't need to go, Fernando doesn't want to drive for us, and also he would have been better if he didn't drive for McLaren all those years. There's no need for that, Toto. Calm down. But what's going on with Fernando Alonso at the minute, I think is really interesting. Maybe at the start of the year, I can understand thinking that Aston might be a better place than Mercedes, because Mercedes weren't really on it at the start of the year. They weren't worse than Aston, but they weren't on it. Mercedes are a much better place now. But I think even if you went to Fernando Alonso now and said, "Do you want to go to Mercedes next year?" he'd still say no. And I think that's because Fernando knows there's something going on behind the scenes, which brings us in to our next headline. Aston Martin expects a response from Adrian Newey regarding their offer for the Brits to join the team in the next few days. More precisely, within this week. This comes from Formula Uno. Newey reportedly made a private visit to the factory in Silverstone a couple of weeks ago. And I think this is why Fernando Alonso... I'm going to say his name again there because I messed it up. This is why Fernando Alonso is in such a good mood at the minute, despite being dreadful. The last few races, especially last weekend in Austria, awful. He hasn't picked up points in a while. The Aston has been nowhere. And we know what Alonso's like. Going back to those McLaren days again, GP2 engine, all that kind of stuff. If the car's not going in the right direction, Fernando Alonso is the first one to tell the world. Aston are crap at the minute, but Alonso's fine. And I think that's because he knows, behind the scenes, Aston are making the right moves to be in the right place for a 2026. And I think that includes Adrian Newey. Triple A, everybody. Aston, Alonso, Adrian. It's coming 2026. The Stop and Go F1 seal of approval is right there. We'll see how that one goes. I'd love to see Adrian Newey in Aston. I know a lot of people want to see him go to Ferrari. You know, the combination of Ferrari, Newey, Leclerc and Hamilton. I mean, obviously that's appealing to people. But for me, the appeal of Adrian Newey at Aston Martin with Alonso is much bigger. Just for the reason of Aston Martin being this team that, you know, are on like the precipice, maybe. They've been a bit off the boil this year, but they are on the precipice. They're on the precipice of something good. They're very much like Red Bull were when he joined them there. And to have Alonso there, this guy who, like Toto Wolff said, should have a hell of a lot more world titles than he does. It's really, in a way, in a very, very strange way, the team owned by the multi-billionaire is the ultimate underdog. The team owned by the multi-billionaire with the multiple-time world champion is the underdog. And, you know, having Adrian Newey there to help guide them, the team that was once Jordan, now, with Fernando Alonso, with Adrian Newey, to go for the title, I think that's a great story, and that is something I would like to see, and who knows, I think it might be true. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Alpine, and when I was talking about, Pierre Gasly had been signed for the extension there, we were saying who could be in that seat alongside him. My idea was Mick Schumacher, and when we were talking about that, I said I don't think they have the pull to necessarily get someone like Sainz. Well, it turns out I might be wrong, because Gazzetta dello Sport reports that Carlos Sainz is set to move to Alpine. The arrival of Flavio Briatore as executive advisor and the Alpine switch to Mercedes engines in 2026 has reportedly convinced him to join the French outfit. Now, we have to say, the switch to Mercedes engines is not confirmed, and it was that's just rumour at this point. The rumour at this point is that they're thinking of maybe not using Renault engines. The rumour isn't even that they're switching to Mercedes. So that is a bit, up in the air at the minute. But as for Flavio, that's definitely true. Carlos Sainz is, he had the world at his feet a few months ago, and he's just gone, I've got the world at my feet. I will wait forever now. And every team has just gone, I can't be arsed with this bloody waiting, mate. So, he was offered the Red Bull seat. He took too long. They said no. They gave it to Checo. Or have they? More on that in a little bit. He was offered the Audi seat, and it looks like, the Audi seat was the one that he was possibly going to go for. Maybe that's still open. We'll wait and see. But they're also looking at Liam Lawson, which is a whole different thing. And then, he was offered the Mercedes seat, allegedly, as well. He was basically offered every seat on the grid, apart from that Ferrari. And now to see him at Alpine. I mean, Alpine are doing pretty well at the minute. But, every team right now can't announce their driver moves just in case Carlos Sainz decides to join them. So you have teams like Williams who are looking to get Sainz. But it's like, okay, well, if they don't get Sainz, they probably want to go for Bottas. So, no one can sign Bottas because Bottas wants to go to Williams. And, Haas might be in the same position. Or, especially with Haas maybe going for Ocon. Ocon might be going, I might sign with you, Haas, but I also might be here, and here if Sainz doesn't go there. So Sainz is this one domino. And I reckon the week Sainz announces where he's going, we're going to have like 3 or 4 driver announcements within the same week because everyone's just going to go, okay, Sainz is there now, I'll go here. He is just holding everyone up in this silly season that we have at the minute. Alpine, they're not the best. They're getting better, and like I've said a few times, I think they're definitely heading in the right direction. But, you were offered Red Bull, man. What are you doing? Come on, Carlos Sainz. And speaking of Red Bull, so a couple of weeks ago, I think it was before the Canadian Grand Prix, there was the announcement that Sergio Perez had been given a contract extension, which was a 1+1, so he has the 1 year, and if they're happy at the end of that 1 year, they can extend it to make it a 2-year deal. But apparently, that contract extension is not as secure as first thought, because Sergio Perez is apparently, once again, despite signing a new contract, a month ago, Sergio Perez is in danger of losing his Red Bull seat. The article goes on to say, if Ricciardo can confirm the recent upward trend at Silverstone, Budapest and Spa, which are the next 3 races. Perez does not significantly improve. Daniel could replace Sergio Perez for 2025. Helmut Marko has commented, because of course he has, saying we'll know more by the summer break. My goodness, I saw a bit of the interview between Horner and the Sky lot today, because I've kind of been flicking around channels today between F1 related stuff and British election related stuff, and I caught the end of this where they were basically asking him, why did you offer Sergio the contract in the first place? Because he wasn't doing well. And Horner said, we offered him the contract because we thought if we had the contract he'd get better. And I kind of understand the thought process, having the confidence within yourself to know that, you have a seat next year. That gives you a certain level of comfort and maybe allows you to push yourself a bit more. But, when someone's not performing that well, I don't think that's the way to get it out of them. And what blows my mind here is obviously we don't know how the Red Bull contract situation works, but it seems like there are clauses in the contract of Sergio Perez and Daniel Ricciardo that they both can be switched. So Sergio can be dropped down, Ricciardo can be brought up. What's mind-blowing to me is that Yuki Tsunoda is never in these conversations. The conversation about the Red Bull second seat happens all the time. But Yuki Tsunoda is never in it. Now, obviously, Yuki hasn't had the best results over the last couple of races, but for the majority of this year, Yuki Tsunoda has been better than Daniel Ricciardo. I'm just going to have a look at the standings right now just to see. I'm pretty sure Yuki is ahead. So, Yuki Tsunoda is on 19 points. Daniel Ricciardo is on 11. Daniel Ricciardo scoring points on 3 race weekends. Yuki Tsunoda has scored points on 5. So, Yuki, I'd say, is doing much better than Ricciardo is this year. But he's never in these conversations, which makes me think, does Yuki not have the clause in his contract that says he can jump up and down between the teams? Or is it just because they're so scared of Yuki's association with Honda and Honda's new association with Aston that they don't want to push Yuki and invest into him for him to be taken away in 2026? We don't know. But this makes no sense to me whatsoever. Why do you give Sergio Perez a 2-year contract deal if you're not confident in his abilities? Because, we've all been watching the races, and he's done what he does all the time. He starts well, then he's dreadful, and then he will finish quite well. This is the dreadful period. It happens every year. And would Ricciardo do a better job in the Red Bull? I don't know, because Ricciardo has been also as unpredictable as Sergio has. As we said just then, he scored points 3 times this year. And yeah, he did well in Austria, and he did well in Canada. Of course, Canada, he did incredibly well. But, he's also done rubbish. So if you put him in that car, is he going to help you challenge the McLarens? No idea. It's just like Red Bull right now have Max Verstappen, who's the best driver on the grid. They have their car, which, used to be the best car on the grid, now is in the conversation between them or McLaren, given any other weekend. And then apparently their selection for their second driver is just 2 of the most unpredictable, inconsistent guys on the grid. Carlos Sainz is there. Why didn't you get him? It makes no sense. Carlos Sainz, who has been let go by Ferrari, who's been incredibly consistent over the last couple of years, shown he has great potential, could match Charles Leclerc on occasion, was a Red Bull Junior when he broke into Formula 1, but they've just gone, nah, I guess we'll stick with Sergio. Oh no, he's out in Q1, who could have seen that happening? Right, moving on to a driver who might be out of Q1 this weekend, but it's not that bad because it's Pierre Gasly, because he's received a penalty because of the amount of power units he's used thus far this year. So he will start from the back of the grid for the British Grand Prix, no matter where he qualifies. So not much to look into there. Yes, I should mention it because it's important going into the race weekend. Anyway, it's time to go now to Special Helmet Streets. But before we do, it is time for Special Livery Cul-de-sac. So, if you're watching on YouTube, rather than listening on Spotify, you can see on your screens now, this is the Red Bull Special Livery. And I have to say, it's crap. I really don't like the Red Bull Special Liveries they've had over the last couple of years. Because they had this one, and they had the ones last year for the American races. And they've just gone, right, here's what we're going to do, right? We're going to only change the middle bit, but we're going to add nothing that looks good. We're going to keep the top the same, we'll keep everything else the same. Just a straight line down the middle, and we'll just add random crap. You know, in Miami, we'll just put some colourful lines. And, oh yeah, in Vegas, we'll put some colourful lines. And in the Texas one, we had some stars and some colourful lines. And they go, oh, here we are. We're at the British Grand Prix. I know what we'll do. Random splodges of red paint. Yeah. What is this? You know, Red Bull have had some of the best special liveries ever in the history of Formula One, ever. In their past. You know, the Japan one from a couple of years ago that never raced at Japan. The Star Wars one from Monaco in like 2006, 2005, whatever that was. You know, they were great. There was the one in Silverstone in like 2013 when it was the faces of all people who worked in the factory. Fantastic stuff. The blue camo livery from testing in like 2014, maybe. Who knows? Great stuff. What is this? It's just like little stuff here and there. It's like, what does it mean? What has this got to do with the British Grand Prix? What's it got to do with Red Bull? What is it? It's just crap. There you go. It's not the only special livery, though. We've got Williams Racing here. They've got their special livery as well. It's a big British flag, and then on the flag there's a bunch of names. Look, like this blurry picture that says Scott and South, and yeah. So these are names of people in the factory, I think, people who work for the team. So that's great, great stuff. Very good, Williams. I mean, it's not gonna be in the competition for greatest liveries of all time, but there you go. They did a very similar thing last year, if I remember correctly. Let's move on now, though, to special helmets. Starting with Alexander Albon, who's done a helmet of his pets again. But this time they're doing activities. That one's playing golf. There's one up here he's driving a Formula 1 car. This one, like, eating cereal. Okay. Aston have had some of the worst special helmets I've ever seen this year, because it seems like they can only have a special helmet if it's sponsored by one of their sponsors. So this is Lance Stroll's one this weekend, which is sponsored by Valvoline, them. And then this is Fernando Alonso's one, which is sponsored by Boss, Hugo Boss. Okay. Lando Norris' one is sponsored, but also looks good. So this is sponsored by Android, and it's all glitchy and weird, and I think there's like different colours on, like he's got 5 separate ones, and like the colours are different on each one or something, and it looks pretty good. So you see, it's like a sponsorship, right? But a helmet that looks nice. And Lando's done this a few times now, where he's had a sponsorship related helmet but made it look good. I remember the one he had in Singapore when he was sponsored by Microsoft. He had the Master Chief helmet. It looks good, you know. That's what makes people like the brand, not just putting your bloody logo on it and it mean nothing. Incorporate it to the character of the driver or make it look cool. Right, Zhou Guan Yu has got a helmet as well, where it's the red, white and blue of France, no, America, no, Britain, Great Britain, that's where we are. So that's there. Sergio Perez is quite nice. So this is part of the 20-year Red Bull thing, and it's the original Red Bull can colours. You know, the quarters of blue and then the quarters of white. I think is there a picture of that in here? No, there isn't. But that's what the old car used to look like, and the cans. I quite like that. It's good. Pierre Gasly has brought out this special helmet, which is quite interesting because it's a tribute to PSG, the football team, at the British Grand Prix during the Euros. So, I don't know, but it looks nice. So there you go, that's special helmetry, everybody. Moving on to upgrade corner, an interesting upgrade corner this time. So Red Bull brought a couple of things, new floor, so new floor body and floor edge for Red Bull thus far. Mercedes have brought a new rear corner as well as a few circuit-specific stuff. Aston got a new front wing and rear corner. The Racing Bills have brought a new halo. Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber have brought new floor fences. But Haas are the ones that have brought the most. They have brought basically an entirely new car off the back of the weekend where they did incredibly well. So they've got a new floor body, floor fences, floor edge, side pod inlet, engine cover, mirror stay, and rear corner. Lots of upgrades going on the Haas, and if their times are to be believed in FP2, it looks like it bloody works. Nothing at all for McLaren, Ferrari, Alpine, or Williams. They might have had a few circuit-specific stuff, but in terms of actual performance, nothing from those four. So as I say, Haas looking good. I expected a bit better out of Mercedes, and Red Bull don't look to have gained that much, considering they brought a brand new floor. But that being said, they could just be holding back on their pace. The ones I'm a bit let down on are Aston. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and they're a huge Aston Martin fan, and obviously aren't having a great time at the minute because Aston aren't doing very well. But they were saying the last time Aston brought a substantial upgrade package was Monaco, so a while ago now. And I thought for sure the British Grand Prix would be the one they bring something big to. British team, but not only that, their factory is just across the road from the track. So, if they had some kind of big upgrade that they needed to maybe work on overnight, it's quite easy to bring it into the circuit. But no, new front wing, new rear corner, and it's a bit fishy on their results today. Lance Stroll looked strong at one point, but didn't really last for long. So I really don't know what's going on with Aston. I expect them to bring something big at some point, but it doesn't look like there's no indications of anything huge coming. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the free practice roundup now. So Lando Norris has topped both sessions, doing incredibly well for Lando there, especially in FP2. He topped it from Oscar Piastri by 0.3 of a second. Lance Stroll finished second in FP1 with Oscar Piastri in P3. That's where Stroll did well. Max Verstappen was in 4th place for FP1, and then in FP2 he was 7th. So Red Bull either not showing their hand or maybe not necessarily on the pace. The big winner of FP2 though was Nico Hülkenberg, who was 4th in the end. I think he sat that time at the midpoint of the session as well. So the track did improve. It did rain a little bit towards the end of FP2, but Hülkenberg's time was still very competitive. I think where's Magnussen? He was 20th. But I think maybe he was doing race runs or something there. So, also in FP1, lots of junior drivers. So Isaac Hadjar, Franco Colapinto, Jack Doohan and Ollie Behrman. Ollie Behrman, of course, been confirmed for Haas for next year. We spoke about that in a video of it on its own on the channel if you want to check that out. So, really, McLaren very much the ones to beat this weekend, consistently looking quick. Mercedes do not seem to be on the pace thus far this weekend, especially in FP2. They seem to struggle a bit more. Lewis Hamilton going 6th, George Russell was down in 10th, and Ferrari were kind of just there in the middle. They're still the top 4, the likes of your McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari. The battle for 5th, the 5th fastest team, I think is really quite exciting this weekend, because as I said, I think Haas look good, Alpine look okay, they look all right, I guess, looking consistent. Oscar Piastri had a bit of an issue in FP1, but apart from that, in terms of consistency for McLaren. But yeah, Alpine looking all right this weekend. I think that battle for the last points playing positions is going to get really interesting in the second half of the year. We're going to have the likes of Alpine and Haas and maybe the Racing Bills if they can turn their fortune around a little bit. But yeah, looking interesting going in. But I guess we should do my predictions now. And my first prediction is Lando Norris domination, pole and the win for Lando Norris this weekend. I think the McLaren is in a league of its own thus far. Like I said, maybe Red Bull aren't showing their hand just yet, especially with a new floor. But realistically, I think Lando has looked pretty unstoppable so far in the practice sessions, and he will carry that through the whole weekend. Pole and the win. My second prediction is a Haas double points finish. Back-to-back Haas double points finishes is what I'm predicting here for the British Grand Prix. There you go. That is the preview done. I will not be here tomorrow. I'm busy, would you believe it? So no qualifying video tomorrow, but we're back on Sunday for a recap of the race, as well as a recap of F2 and F3, both looking very good as well. It might rain, so that's all very exciting. So subscribe for that. Until next time, though, I will see you later. Have a good one. Goodbye.